If you're ready.
I'm ready. Bring it. Ask me anything.
Ms. Carol Horner joining us on Campfire Conversations. A little breezy tonight, and every time I think the cicadas are done, they come back.
Yep.
But other than that, it's a very beautiful night.
Very beautiful.
If I will never complain about 80, 79, right about where it's at on a mid-August evening.
Yeah. And then it'll be 100 on Sunday.
Yeah, I saw that. It took away my weekend plans, but anyway, I was just up at the State Fair last weekend. Did you make it up to the State Fair this year?
I did not make it up to the State Fair this year. I have not been in a while, pre-COVID. Probably the last time I was at, actually the last time I was at the fair was to go see a niece sing.
Okay.
And I just haven't had like a purpose to go, like
Right.
somebody to see or something to do specifically. And I thought about it this year because boy did we have nice weather. Because sometimes that is just one hot, sweaty place. And I just did not get there. I kind of regret it.
I went last Friday, and it was a little warmer last Friday than it had been. It was a lot cooler. They set a record for attendance again this year. And I went to go see the Avett Brothers, who I'm a big, big fan of them, and wonderful concert. But it was a ton of fun, and I just don't think there's anything more Iowa than looking at a 1,400-pound boar.
Yeah. Now they did have some things cordoned off because of the flu, right?
The avian flu. Yeah, you couldn't milk a cow.
Yeah.
And they didn't shut down the cow barn completely. I mean, there was, the young 4-H'ers were still showing, but I had been up there before and saw that display where you could milk a cow.
See, I did that when I was really little.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 4. I was 4. I milked cows when I was 4. My aunt and uncle had a dairy farm in Pennsylvania, and we lived in town, well, the itty bitty little town, and my brother was sick a lot, and so I spent a lot of time at my aunt and uncle's while my little brother would be in the hospital or something like that, and so, yeah, I'd get up and milk cows.
My aunt and uncle had a dairy farm in northeast Iowa, and I was bottle feeding a calf, and it just kept pushing against me, and they never really told me, you just gotta just push back and it'll be fine. So I just kept backing up, and it kept pushed me all the way into the gutter that runs underneath, where they milk the cows, and I stepped into a big, large pile of poo. Yeah, so that was a fun day. This is from a kid who did not grow up on a farm. That's what happened.
So at the fair, did you see the Caitlin Clark butter
That was
statue?
last year.
Oh, that was last year?
That was last year.
Oh, I thought that was this year.
This year they had late night hosts. So Johnny Carson, because he was born in Corning, I believe. Mm-hmm. Also, Jimmy Fallon was there because his announcer is from Iowa. I don't know
I didn't know
his name
that.
is. Yeah, I didn't either. So that was the point to that. And then a big giant cow. But yeah, walked through there, took a look at the butter cow, and had, what did I have to eat? I had a tenderloin. That's about as most Iowa thing I can do. And it was...
no deep fried Snickers bars?
No. Once upon a time, yes. I don't know about you, but no. I hit my limit as far as some food that I can eat, and I just can't eat it anymore.
Yeah. You know Carrie McDonald. And yeah, she taught me so much about nutrition. I mean, it changed my life. Mm-hmm. And that stuff just doesn't even interest me at all.
Right.
To even think of trying that.
You are an example, since you brought it up, of someone who dropped the weight and kept it off. People always want to know what a secret is. I used to smoke, and so when people hear that I used to smoke, well, how did you quit? Like I had, I figured out the magic formula. And I said, I just didn't eat, I just didn't smoke. That's how I quit. I didn't smoke, and they don't want to hear that. That doesn't sound good. So what type of things did you do that got your mind in a place where you could continue that lifestyle?
So for me, it wasn't about, I mean, of course it was about weight loss, but what scared me the most, when I turned 50, I had my body fat done um, at the YMCA. And at that point in time, I weighed 172 pounds and I had 44% body fat. And I had bad numbers in my blood work. I was a walking time bomb and with horrible genetic history to boot. And it took 2 years of me just saying out loud, I should do something about this. I should do something
Mm-hmm.
about this. Until finally, Carrie had written on the board, you, when you're setting your, this was 2016, it was December, and she said, when you're setting your 2017 goals, do something a little scary. And I told her, I said, what would be scary is if I did your nutrition program. And so I did.
Yeah.
And then I did it again. I did two 12-week sessions with her. And I just wanted to get into a healthy range of weight and get into a healthier, I didn't know I'd come off all my blood pressure medication. My blood numbers are still awesome. My doc loves it, I'm strong, I'm healthy. To me, that was what it was about. And part of it is, I've taken, I was taking care of my parents at the time a lot and having to do a lot for them. And my dad had COPD and my mom was obese and just, they just were never very active people physically, And then my dad passed in 2019 and I'm still helping to take care of my mom is 20 years older than me, right? I turned 60. I'm going to turn 60 in December. My mom will turn 80 in November. And I can't be where she's at physically when I'm 80 because I don't have a Carol. I don't have someone that's going to come and do your grocery shopping for me and do, help me with things that open jars. I go over, and open up new jars for her so that they're open and don't close them as tight so she can open them. I want to be able to do all that stuff for myself. And so it was a matter of taking control of my health. I had blamed so much of my unhealthiness on genetics, as if it was my parents' fault, and it wasn't. So much of it was mine, and how I ate, and what I ate, and what I placed it as important and in priority for me. So getting a good night's sleep, handling stress, doing things that make me feel good and feel healthy. That's the secret. It's not hard other than that.
You mentioned turning 50 and
60.
but I mean before
Oh, when I turned 50,
when you
yes.
turned 50.
Yes.
50 was a kind of a deal for me too. And it's not as if we're out of time. That's not it.
Mm-mm.
But we no longer have the luxury of saying we have a lot of time.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
So we still have time to do what we want to do and accomplish what we want to accomplish.
Yeah.
But that 50 number it hit me that day. And then I woke up the next morning. All right, here we go. That's it. It kind of felt like a fulcrum to me. That's what it was. And then, that happened. Well, I'm 55 now, so a little over 5 years ago. And then,
Youngin'.
Yeah, I know. And coming up, you mentioned you lost your dad in 2019. I lost mine in 2020, and that also just kind of cemented it.
Yeah.
For me. That all right, Dad's gone, and also to me, I don't know how much truth there is to it or not, but it just kind of felt like, okay, now I can't get away with anything with him anymore. He can see me, and he knows what's going on, and I had that conversation mentally with him. Sorry for the times that I let you down, and thank you for the encouragement that you always gave me, and all of that. So,
Oh, yeah.
but that was a big deal for me, and it's a lot of things changed when I did that. Has to do with what I'm doing now with this and being out on doing this stuff on my own, which you are. You are a very successful entrepreneur. You help other businesses, which I think is just phenomenal. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that and mainly because, I got you on a podcast, so I'm trying to get free advice. See, that's how that works.
Is that how that works? Okay. I don't know what advice I can give, but
But I was on your website and I was looking at some of the different things and helping companies be in sync. It's where the synchronicity
Yep.
comes from with the name of your company. That often is a real problem. I was in a place today, I'm not going to mention who it was, that one side didn't know what the other side was doing. They didn't know. It was a lot of confusion. Nobody really understood what was going on. Nobody was on the same page. And I thought, "Oh, I got to talk to Carol tonight." And it's kind of, because you help companies
yeah,
overcome that.
yeah. And my job's to help people work better together, and enjoy that, right? Because that's the other piece of it. People can work together and get goals done and make things happen, and it sucks. Or they can do it, and it's the joy of their life. And I want to help them see how to make it the joy of their life, and make it enjoyable at least, so that when you go to work every day and you work with your team and you spend all that time, you kind of like it, and so much of, I talk about, companies constantly throwing resources behind IT and systems and stuff. And I'm just the firm believer that you can have the best of all that. You can have the best systems, the best IT, the best equipment, even the best talented people. And if they're not getting along, you're not going to go far. If you have people that get along well and work well together, you don't even have to have the best of that other stuff to really rock it. And if you can pull off both, you're a high-performing organization. You've got it made. But it's how people get along that makes the difference at work. It really does. It's how can they function together in a way, moving them towards a goal that they understand, and they understand their impact on that, and they are connected to each other and connected to that, and communicating and operating in that kind of high-speed unison, right? Which is why I use the dolphins as my logo, is that they operate in high-speed unison. They do things really fast that are really hard, and everybody has their role, and they play their role, and they support each other, and they fill in for each other, and they got each other's backs, and that's what we want from work. Because if you have that place where trust is solid, and people can have conflict around ideas, and we can commit to plans, and be flexible and accountable and all those things, the results come.
Do you find that companies can achieve this goal with the staff that they have, or does sometimes it require a change?
It varies. Sometimes when companies, I have companies that were like, well, we want to do some team building, and we get to talking about it, and I dig in a little bit, find out really what they're looking for an outcome on, and then they'll just delay it, or we're gonna do this second quarter because we've got too much going on, or blah 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 blah. What happens is problems between people don't get better. I told a client this morning, I said, what, people don't talk out, they act out. And that is not going to ever move you towards goals. And so delaying those kinds of things, or not proactively going after team building, can really hurt an organization and their ability to work together. Sometimes you have somebody in the system that's just toxic. And sometimes there are people there that this is not the fit for them. This is not a good fit for them personally, and it's not a good fit for the organization, and it's not a good fit, that I was that person once, right? My last job, they laid me off. I saw it coming because I've been laid off 10 times. I know what that looks like. I was not a fit. And it was that I didn't want to go the way they wanted to go. I had another plan. I had another idea, and I wanted me to go this way, and I wanted them to support that, and they didn't. and I wanted to grow and learn more about organization development. I had a great mentor from the Shell Learning Center. Shell Oil was my biggest client there, and I found myself almost lying is a strong word, but certainly not telling the whole truth to my bosses about the work I was doing with them because I was afraid they would take it away from me, and I didn't want to lose it, and I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to go the direction they wanted to go, and I wasn't good for them, and they weren't good for me. And eventually they laid me off, and so that actually was the best thing that ever happened to me because Synchronicity was born out of that layoff. And I'm still friends with the people that I worked with there, not my bosses, the higher ups, but my immediate supervisor and my colleagues. We're still very good friends. But that was not my place. I didn't belong there.
Somewhere back in your history, a passion was born for this. Do you know where the starting point for that was?
I don't know. There wasn't an event that said, Carol, you're eventually going to own your own company and do this kind of consulting. It's all evolved over time and grown over time. And I think when we talk about like passions and stuff like that, I think we have interests that grow into passions. The more that we get to connect with it and it connects with us, it grows. And that's what happened with me. I started my career working with people with traumatic brain injuries and designing training curriculum to help them return to work and independent living. And I was fascinated by brain science. Still am fascinated by brain science. It still anchors a lot of the stuff I do. But I don't remember anything. As a kid, I wanted to be a marine biologist. Actually, as a kid, what I wanted to do was play with dolphins. And I get to do that now. It's not my job, but I do get to play with dolphins. And I just think passion's one of those things that grows as opposed to I've got to find my why and my passion and my this. You know what? Let it find you.
Yeah.
Just play with your interests and it pops up.
Yeah, I remember talking with a young person one time, and she was actually waiting tables at a restaurant. I was with a buddy in Georgia, and she was saying, I'm thinking about going to veterinary school. I'm not really sure if I want to do it, and go. It's okay to change your mind. It's all right. Just go and give it a shot and find out, because there's a lot of information about that you don't know because you're not in the field yet.
Right.
And you won't know until you're really deep into it and find out. And I, as a young person, was paralyzed by what if I make the wrong decision? So I ended up making no decisions.
See,
And
I already
that's
thought I
worse.
had all the decisions made.
Yeah.
Now, I do remember the exact moment I no longer was going to be a marine biologist.
Yeah.
It was a moment. It had built, but it was a moment. I was I was a biology major at the University of Northern Iowa. Because you have to get a bachelor's degree in biology before you go into marine biology. That's a graduate program in most places.
Right.
And so might as well get that close to home. And so I went to UNI, and I'm in a comparative anatomy lab. And I'm doing fine in classes. I mean, I love science. I geek out on math and science. I think it's the funnest thing, but it's not to be my work. And I'm sitting there and I've got 8 worms splayed out on my table. And the grad assistant comes over and he says, so Carol, tell me what you see. And I looked at him and I said, I can answer your question because I know what you're asking me. You want to know about their digestive systems. You want to know about their electrical. You want to know, I can tell you all that. I can tell you how many hearts they got. I can tell you all that stuff. And he goes, just relax. It's okay. I mean, what's it? I said, but if you want to know what I really honestly see, I see bait. I see bait that should be at the end of my hook at the Cedar River right now. This is not for me. This is not the biology I want to do.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not doing 2 more years of this. And it was over right then. I make decisions really fast. If intuition says this is the right thing, I don't hesitate.
I tend to wait and wait and wait, but then once I make a decision, it's made. That's kind of my deal. But I was just doing the math in my head based on how close we are in age. You would have been a student at UNI when I was there in high school at an industrial arts fair at the Unidome.
Probably.
Yeah.
So I was there 82 to 86.
Yes, I would have been there in '84 when I was a sophomore. And my classmate Jimmy and I had made a log splitter that did not work.
Oh no.
But that was, we got a third place ribbon on it. So
And a story to tell.
and a story to tell. That was it. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, that was. Unidome been around for a long time, so it's kind of cool that you went to northern Iowa because that's the northern part of the state. And I grew up in northwest Iowa, but that's a kind of a neat area. You could really do what you do from anywhere. Why Council Bluffs?
Really, the bulk of my clients are local, and
Okay.
the bulk of my work is in person. So being present is important. But you're right. A lot of stuff I can do remotely for sure, and there's a lot that can be done virtually. So Council Bluffs is home. I grew up here. We moved here when I was 7. And my mom was born and raised here in Council Bluffs, um, and we lived here through my sophomore year, and then my dad was transferred, and I actually graduated high school at Marshalltown.
Okay.
But I I really only have one friend from Marshalltown that I still even communicate with. These were the here is I mean this is where I grew up. These families here, my mom's whole family is here. I have well over 50 cousins in this town, and it's just home. And then moving back from Houston, I reconnected with the idea of community again, of being engaged in my community, and yet still being a part of a really big metro with a lot going on.
Right.
And because one of the things I experienced in Houston that I had not experienced as a kid in Iowa is diversity, and having just a lot of difference around me that just exposed me to so many awesome things, and I learned so much about different cultures, different ethnicities, and different backgrounds from people, and it was fascinating and invigorating. And I love to meet people, and then to meet people that wow, I could learn so much and get so excited about knowing was great. And so being a part of a metro gives me a much better chance of that than moving. My parents still lived in Marshalltown at the time. But Council Bluffs was always home. And so when I decided to start my own company and to come here to do it, this was the only place that made sense, to be in the Omaha Metro and to be in my hometown. It was also a chance for me to get close to my parents as an adult, rather than seeing them, twice a year. I've seen them far more often, and now I see my mom 3-4 times a week and talk to her every day. And but really, the biggest reason, family-wise, was my niece. My brother had had his first child. Him and his wife had their first child, Shelby, and I swore to be part of her life. I swore to be the backup parent. I was committed to helping raise her, and be an influence in her life, a positive influence in her life. And she's 2 years old and have no idea who I am. I was new every time she met me, and I'm like, this just can't be, And so it was really, when I decided I'm going to go out on my own, this was the only place to come to do that. Was back home.
That makes a lot of sense.
Even though I knew nobody in business, had no contacts,
Well,
no network, no nothing. Let's just start a business from scratch.
It can work here, though. This is what I have discovered about Council Bluffs, and I first moved here in 2000, is that if you want to be here, this town is very welcoming.
Yeah.
If you're dipping a toe in and then running away, nope.
I don't have time for you.
Don't have time. And that is, I mean, I could get into a previous employer myself, but we're just going to let that go for now. But I believe in this community, and I live in Council Bluffs, and I want to showcase the positive and the best that our town has, because too often people focus the other way
Yeah.
when it comes to Council Bluffs.
Yeah.
Not everybody, not everybody, and yeah, Council Bluffs has some issues that need to be addressed, and there's,
And every community does.
yeah.
My hope is that we actually get after it and address those things and just continue to make it a better community to live, work, and play, right?
Well, my belief, and this is just, I've said many times, whether it's on a podcast or on a radio show or whatever, I'm going to make T-shirts up that say, I don't have facts, I only have opinions.
Yeah.
But my opinion is that the more we focus on the positive, the less comfortable the negative is to be around it.
It is.
So
Yeah.
shine a spotlight on the positive instead of shining a spotlight on the negative. You need to know what the negative is, but it doesn't need to be celebrated, and it doesn't need to be constantly, it's just Council Bluffs again. Well, yeah, but that's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Well, and I think too, that idea of shining a light on the positive, it's also, looking at it from an appreciative standpoint. We have a lot of things going well. Can we study that? Understand why it's going well and apply that to where the problems are.
Mm-hmm.
We spend, I'm a firm believer, that we can learn so much from success. And people, that old adage, you learn more from failures than success, it's only because we study failure. If we studied success, if we honestly studied success and like what made that go so well, we could then take that learning and go, you know what, that fits here and here and here and here. And we already know we can do it. The confidence is there. Right? And the energy is there. And it's a creative process. To apply previous solution to a current problem is a creative process versus looking at a problem and a problem and a problem. If we can look at really what makes things work, we can make more things work.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have more going right, we got to have less going wrong. I mean,
that's my belief, and that's part of the reason that I'm doing this, and it's part of the reason why I'm talking with some of the leaders like yourself in the community, that we need to learn from each other, and because everybody's contributing. The business community in Council Bluffs is really a small town. I mean, Council Bluffs has 64,000 people. The business community, that's a small town.
Yep.
Because every time I go to a chamber event or I go, to whatever the event might be, I see all the same people.
Absolutely.
So, and when I go, I see the same businesses advertising in different places that want to support the community. So I think that we can learn from each other, because there's a lot of great people in this town that want to see everything succeed.
And another resource that we have not, really taken advantage of is our young professionals. They're smart. They've got energy. They've got ideas. They have, drive. And we really have not harnessed their strengths to benefit us as a community, and we need to do that.
Yeah.
One, to keep them here, and two, I really think that when you look at some of our 20s, 30s, 40-year-olds kind of professionals, they have a passion for our community too, and I think it gets squished when they're not heard, and I think they need to be heard. And I have said this to them. I've said this to a variety of groups. They need to be given leadership opportunities, because they are more than ready for that. And if they have a little something to learn along the way, that's great. But we learned it along the way. They can too. Let's give them those chances. Let's give them a chance to run commissions and do those kinds of things, as opposed to keeping them, here you are, stay over here,
I remember as a young person, late teens, early 20s, things being said about our generation that we're now saying.
Every generation does that. The next generation has no work ethic, doesn't appreciate
It was
their
all
elders.
said about us. Music was just noise.
Oh
That's
yeah.
all, our music was only
Although,
noise.
No. Our music.
Now our music was good. However, my parents said it was just noise. I'm not listening
Well,
to that.
and I'm just saying though, all the other generations like our music too.
Well, that's a
So
good
it's
point.
like I'm just saying, Xers music, Gen X, our music is very, very much good. Well, not all of it, but there's a lot that really was good.
I remember my son was about 6, and I saw him. A Bon Jovi song was on, and he was doing windmills like Pete Townsend. And I made the comment, I'm not sure whether to be proud or horrified right now. Because that's not the same music. But getting back to the young people, several years ago when I first started my Success in Iowa podcast, and by the way, the same channel that now hosts these podcasts that I'm doing, you can see the old stuff.
Awesome.
There was a couple of young men, and this goes back to after COVID had hit. They're students at UNO. Classes get canceled. These guys are roommates, so they're around each other anyway. And well, what are we going to do? I don't know which one of them came up with the idea that they were going to go visit as many towns as they could in Nebraska.
Oh, wow.
And they turned it into a project to visit every incorporated town in Nebraska. So they went out and they mapped out everything that they were doing, and they ended up putting together a book that had QR codes that would take you to the pictures that they took and all this different stuff. Well, somebody said, well, what are you doing next year? So the following year they did Iowa.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I found them. And they started visiting all, was it 969, I think, is what Iowa has?
We have 99 counties. There's a
and
lot of towns.
That's how many incorporated towns. So they had to map this all out. So their Facebook numbers are just growing exponentially because everybody is so excited about it. And they went to every single incorporated town in Iowa and had to map all of this stuff out. And I remember telling them, it's in the podcast, I said, you know, my generation has a habit of just saying that your generation isn't doing anything or no drive or ambition or anything. Look at you guys. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was last year, when I was still doing radio, I had an intern. Her name was Abby. And Abby, if you're watching this or if you ever do, she was a rock star. You know, played a couple years of volleyball for UNO, and she came over and she was interning, and I was teaching her how to edit podcasts and different stuff like that. And I said that, she said, you got anything else for me to do? And I said, well, I got another podcast that's ready to go, but I haven't shown you all the different components and stuff like that with it yet. And she said, oh, it's done. What? What do you mean it's done? Oh, yeah, I found it on the computer, so I did it.
Oh, wow.
Well, how did you know how to put it together? Oh, I listened to the other ones. She just took it upon herself to do that. So it's not, we're just not looking in the right place, you know, because you can find plenty of, you know, non-drive in our generation too.
Oh, I agree.
So,
yeah.
You know, we're just not looking in the right place. So yeah, the young generation is out there. I know some young business people in town that are, I learned from them.
You know, I look, you know, just in my family, my 3 nieces and nephew, they've got all kinds of drive, and they're super smart and pursuing goals. And, you know, Shelby works for me part-time because I need an assistant to help me. Actually, her title is Chaos Coordinator. I'm the chaos in which she has to coordinate. And she does a fabulous job. I mean, she's just, you know, I trust her, and she gives me, you know, solid feedback and input, and even when it's hard for me to hear, she steps right up and does that. And I value that so greatly, someone that can just tell me when I'm full of crap. And, you know, she didn't say it like that, because she never would. But also, she is, you know, I'll be just rambling about something, and she's like, hey, here, look what we got. And all of a sudden, I can act on something I've been rambling about. I wouldn't have acted on it for you. I'm telling you, my book would have not been published without her. She set a timeline. She had these resources. She looked at that. She had all this stuff, and I'm just like, okay, here we go. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without her.
Your book, Spiral of Accountability.
Spiral of accountability.
How far back does the idea for that go?
So the spiral came out of my head in late 2018. I had a client, just in a whole string of clients, that was talking to me about accountability. And can you help my team be more accountable? And when I would dig in and I, question and try to really understand what do you really mean? What's the outcome you're really looking for? Versus just like, okay, yeah, I can do team building. I need to know what it is that they expect to come out of this. And the more I dug, their leader would tell me, she's like, we get things done and we meet timelines and goals, but it's a miserable experience. Because, I got people, pointing fingers at each other, complaining about each other, working around each other instead of with each other. And it's all coming onto my desk, of having to deal with all of this nitty going on, all this infighting, all this stuff. And even though we're getting stuff done, we can't meet our true potential if we can't figure out how to be more accountable to each other. And I'm a big fan of models. And I'm like, I see this dynamic in teams all the time. This, avoiding each other, avoiding topics, not having difficult conversations, making excuses about things, commiserating together and blaming and complaining to people. And I thought, I got to explain this to this team of like, this is the dynamic we're trying to change. It's not about getting stuff done on time. That's transactional. That's a noun. That's the accountability noun, right? The accountability verb is that I am going to do that, but I'm going to do it in a way that is collaborative, that is, engages in productive conflict, that I'm taking responsibility for my relationships with others. I'm including people into decisions that need to be included in those decisions, and I'm doing all these things. So I built this model because I couldn't find one. When I was looking at accountability models that were already out there, it was a black and white. It was like you're either accountable or you're not. And I just don't see things that way. Rarely do I see things in the binary. And so to me, there's this time in which we're going, I don't even know what's happening here. And I call it the fog. And I'm having t-shirts made right now at Anytime Tees that say, what the fog? And because that happens in our interactions with each other. And, you have a teammate that's kind of gruff with you and walks off, and something happens in your head and you start telling a story. And now it's like, I can't like this person, or this person's this way, or and you have no idea about what just happened. But we will spiral down. We will make up things, and we will fill in blanks that we don't have, and we will then avoid people or avoid subjects. And then we'll make excuses as to why we don't deal with that stuff. Like, well, I never get listened to anyway, or they're really difficult to work with, or that's not my job. What you were talking about with your experience this morning.
Right.
That's not my job, that's their job, that's their job. And not realizing we aren't taking care of our customer right now. Mm-hmm. And we are in this together. How do we come together and figure out how do we make this right for this person, for our customer? And they're not doing that because it's not their job, right? And then they start then to point fingers and because what happens is, you get this narrative in your head. Well, then it gradually becomes more intense, like a saga, like a movie. And you got to have a villain to lash out at. And it's always a them. It's always somebody else. It's although it can be yourself, but typically it's somebody else, right? It's like their fault, their problem, and I'm a victim here, right? I'm not responsible for this. Not my job. And then you have to go find people that agree with you and get them to engage in that energy, because you need justification for your feelings. You need justification for your actions being destructive instead of productive. And I don't think it needs to be that way, because the other side of it is I can have a conversation where I'm like, I wonder what they meant by that. And instead of avoiding them and making up all kinds of things in my head, I can say, you know what? I'm going to take some responsibility. I'm going to consider that there could be a lot more going on here than I know, because I can't know it all. As a human being, I am not capable of knowing everything about any given situation at all. Not at all possible. I'm not a camera, I'm not a recorder, I'm not, a computer that can hold every piece of data in my head, and I may interpret things wrong. Because the only way I interpret things is based solely on my own little vision, my own little view of the world, informed by my experiences and my identities. And if that person's not me, they don't have those same experiences and those same identities, they may be viewing this very differently than me, right? And so how do I get more information about what's going on here so that I can make a better decision? I can make a better reaction, right? And I need to take responsibility for that. So I need to consider that, one, I don't know it all. Two, how do I get more information? And so I can go ask somebody, hey, that was a bit abrupt. What's going on? What's up? And instead have feelings of compassion instead of anger. Have feelings of empathy, right? Have feelings of determination instead of self-doubt or worry or fear or anxiety. And I can focus on how do I ask questions and get things rolling so that I can take some responsibility and get some solutions, right? Pursue a solution, and we do that work together. It's always a collaborative. No one solves a problem by themselves.
You mentioned anxiety, and again, something that I have learned is that anxiety doesn't live in the present. Anxiety is a future projection, and usually the past has more to do with depression. But I was listening to a podcast a couple years ago, and they were talking about anxiety, and what they said was, if you are overly anxious about something, that in itself is proof that your life is pretty good. Because if your life was bad and a mountain lion was chasing you down the trail, that's not anxiety you're feeling. So there's nothing right now that's happening to you that warrants what you're feeling with that. And when I heard that, I was like, holy cow. I mean, that to me just set off a light bulb, that all these times that I've felt anxiety about something, and I still do, but it has to do with, as you said, wrapping things up in my own memories and experiences and trying to head off problems that haven't happened because of something that happened in the past.
Mm-hmm. And we do not make things up about people on the good side. It's almost always on the bad side. They're out to get us somehow or another, right? And there was two things for me that was just earth-shattering. It came out of a book called Emotional Agility by Susan David, Dr. Susan David. And the two things she said, one was that feelings are a signpost. Emotions are a signpost. They're information. I am not that emotion. I'm experiencing it. And I'm experiencing it for a reason. And that's what I have to understand. Why am I experiencing that? And then the second thing is that who's in charge, the thinker or the thought? The thinker is. My thoughts can lie to me. My thoughts can make things up. I can also not believe it. I'm the thinker. I can change what I'm thinking. And that was very empowering to me.
I think also we can fall into a trap that I listen to Ed Milet a lot, and some other guys. It's how I get my morning started. It's just coffee.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. And when you just listen to him or Eddie Pinero or anybody else that's out there that's a motivational speaker, you can think that they've got life figured out and everything is always great, and they have the solution to all the problems because they don't have any problems. Well, they're not having problems while they're recording that video, but and just the same as what you were saying, I'm sure you still experience anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
There's still times that you have to tell yourself, wait a minute, I'm thinking this the wrong way.
I spiral down every day.
And it's not like it solves it instantly. It's a process.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, I say, because people will say, so we need to always be spiraling up. And I'm like, well, good luck with that. That's not human.
Right.
That's not possible. You know, it's in our nature to spiral down. And so I every day, the key is, can I catch it? Do I catch my signals that say, hey, wait a minute, what are you avoiding here? What are you ignoring here? What's this excuse about? You know, and flip myself to going, okay, what do I need? What information do I need right now? Right? How else can I look at this? What's my role in this? Right? I start asking myself those questions, and that gets me moving in the right direction, a productive direction, hard direction. It's very easy to spiral down. It's very hard to spiral up. It takes work. But it's fulfilling, and it's energizing and helpful, right? And certainly happier. And so I just try to catch myself. I don't beat myself up when I start spiraling down. It's like, okay, you know what this is, just move it the other direction. And that's how you know, the spiral's a tool. I mean, it's not a panacea. It doesn't fix a damn thing. It gives you an indicator and a pathway. And if you do the work, it's helpful.
See, this is why Gen X is the best generation.
I know. And I'm like right on that edge. I'm on that little group they call us Joneses.
Yeah, you're on the front edge.
Yeah, I'm on the very front edge of that. But I very, very much identify as
I'm still technically early in it, I guess. I mean, I was born in '68, and they say that Gen X goes all the way up to 1984 or something like that. I'm like, really? That seems like an
long time.
That seems like an awful long ways. Hey, by the way, you brought some great wine. What is this stuff?
Yeah, so this is Cabernet from Harmony Cellars in California, in Paso Robles area.
Okay.
And my very dear friend and mentor and guide and coach and all that, and sometimes business partner, introduced me to Harmony because she lives 6 miles from there.
Okay.
And so when I go visit her in Cambria, I spend a lot of time in Harmony Cellars.
Do you have to bring it back with you, or is it something you find locally?
No, you can't find it locally.
Yeah.
I belong to their club, and so I get a shipment every quarter. And then I'm usually in Cambria once a year to visit Andrea, and so I will definitely get some then. I bought a whole, like several cases, like I think 3 cases for Synchronicity's 25th anniversary, and passed them out. And I had labels made.
Right.
And I talked to the winemakers there, and they gave me the dimensions. And my friend Sue Pitts, you know Sue.
I know Sue.
Sue designed me a beautiful label with my 25th anniversary logo on it, which she also designed, because she's just, you know.
She's Sue.
Yeah. And so just a plug for Just Sue.
Yeah, she's just gone out on
her own.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's about time. So we put those labels on the front, and I handed a bunch of those bottles out, and yeah.
It's really nice.
It's very
nice. It reminds me of another one that I had. And like I told you when we were just setting this up, that I'm not a wine connoisseur. I don't know a lot about it, but I've had a few. And there's another one from California that I had years ago. It's called Wooden Valley that I really liked, and this kind of reminds me of that a little bit. But
this is a cute place. It sits on the top of a hill. Harmony is this town of that's over 100 years old and has 18 people. 18 people. It has this one little side street, basically, that has a post office, a wedding venue, and a whole bunch of artisan studios and shops. And then at the top of the hill is the winery. And that's all this town is.
That's all it is.
And it is a riot. I love this place. It's so much fun. They sit out and you look over the rolling hills of California, all the golden hills and farmland and stuff, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And they make great wine, really inexpensively. Because I think this, now I get the member rate for $18.
Yeah, that's
a heck of a price for that quality.
Yeah.
It drinks more like a 40.
That's what you're paying for cheap wine.
Yeah,
You know?
that's not good. But this is really good stuff. Yeah.
So your book is out.
Yeah.
And is it in book form? Is it available on Amazon?
Amazon.
Amazon, is that where people can find it?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
we
the
talked
spiral
about it
of
before
accountability,
that
yeah.
eventually we're going to get this thing turned into an audiobook for you.
Yeah, we need, and I got more people going, do you have an audio? And I'm like, no, but Todd says he wants to do one.
It's coming.
And we
It's
might
coming.
have to do that.
And it's not, and we had talked about it too, that, you know, it's your words talking about things that you know needs to be your voice. That's, and I'm a big believer in that.
Me too.
There's a friend of mine that has written now 2 books, lives in Georgia, and he sent me clips of when he turned his into an audiobook. And I was like, when did you have time to do this? He said, oh, I got up before everybody else. He's doing it like 4 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And I said, how do you sound that way? Because my voice doesn't
no.
sound like that at 4 in the morning. It's
I can't do anything until I've been to fitness. So then I'm good. Yeah.
well, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that you made the trip out here.
Oh, my
And
pleasure. This
there's-
was great. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, there's just a ton of great things going on. This will be out before Good Neighbor Day.
Okay.
So
I am a sponsor.
Yep, so am I. And also, I have worked out a deal, since this will be out ahead of time, that I'm going to be sitting out doing a Facebook Live for 2 hours
In front of Bloomworks?
in front of Bloomworks
Oh,
on
I'll
the
be
100
by.
block. And we're going to be talking to different folks. So that's all set up, and Lisa's excited, and I'm excited.
Oh,
and we're gonna do that, so.
I love what they do at Bloomworks. I
Well, and
absolutely
plus
do.
she doubled it. This is her 20th year in business. She's given away 20,000 roses. So here's how it works. Because I've got people that listen to this all over the world.
Yeah.
So what Elisa does is she gives away a dozen roses. Gives away a dozen roses to anybody that comes up, and the idea is you keep 1 rose for yourself, and you give 11 to 11 other people. So it's a way to just get and she had mentioned it, just get a rose in everybody's hand. That's the idea. 20,000 is 1,666 dozen roses. That's a lot.
And her sponsor list is long because
It is.
people love this.
Yes.
And and they do such great work there. I order all my flowers from them, and I've had them make bouquets for me just to have in my home. Just some fresh flowers, and I just trust them. I just like, make me something. They did all the centerpieces for my 25th anniversary party.
Yeah.
Because where else do you go, man?
Yeah, and Lisa and her whole team in there
They're
do great
incredible.
work. But September 4th starts at 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
The line usually gets going before 7.
Yeah.
People get in line pretty
Yeah.
early. But it's just a wonderful community event, and we talked about how the business community is kind of a small town.
It is.
This is a great example of that.
Well, and so many of them, because I don't take all of the ones that I'm eligible to take as a sponsor, and so it goes into their group that goes out to the nursing homes. So all nursing home residents are getting a rose. Goes to the hospitals.
Yeah.
And I love that.
You know what I really love, and I did this last year, is before she starts giving them away, walk into Bloomworks when she's got.
It just smells.
She has
unbelievable.
20,000 roses in there. It's powerful.
I actually bring a bottle of something delicious at the end of the day when they're spent. They have worked hard. And I'll stop by with a bottle to have a little sip of something, because in cheers to them, because they do such a great job.
Well, Carol Horner, continued success to you. Thank you very much for this. Looking forward to all the new projects and everything we do from here on out.
Sounds good.
And we'll try to be back next week with another episode of Campfire Conversations, although the campfire is out. We've talked all the way through it. So
all the way through it.
Until next time, we'll see you then.